as the storm continues a few miles down the river.
And I just screamed. I called 911, nothing happened. And I screamed, God, I don't know what to do.
Diana Smith waking up to find her house surrounded by floodwater. It was too late to evacuate.
Open the front door and it sweeps both my dogs different directions. And I'm panicking, thinking, now what the hell am I gonna do? I said a prayer when I was standing on my porch. Both my parents are deceased. And I said, Mom, Dad, God, help.
She and her 2 dogs surviving by jumping in a kayak and literally riding out the storm.
Do you think it's that prayer is why you're here today?
Yeah. I have a kid.
Diana and David are among the survivors here in Kirk County who found a way to survive the impossible.
I don't know what to think. I think I'm still in shock.
You know, it was a very, very close call. And had we been 10 or 15 minutes later, it would have been too late.
Now, in that interview with Diana, she told us that while she was in that kayak holding on to her house so she wouldn't float away, she kept hearing help, help, help off in the distance. It's something that David told us that he heard as well. Here's the eerie part, right? That was their neighbors and people in buildings around them, but it was also those floating down the Guadalupe River. Diana saying she saw 3 cars float right past her house. It is that right there that made her not get into her truck and instead get in that kayak. That decision right there likely saved her life. I'm reporting live in downtown Kerrville. Gage Golding, KSAT 12 News.
Welcome to the Revolution of Man podcast. I'm your host, Lance Cashion. And this one's a special episode because I talk about my experience going down into Hunt in Kerrville, Texas, post-flood. I was down there 4 days after the event and then returned again earlier this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, spent basically 28 hours on the ground and serving in the area. And you're going to hear part of that story, which is an incredible story. It's not about me. It's not about the people I'm with. It's about what God's doing in the area. So if you want to learn more about me, you can go to Substack, Revolution of Man. You can also go to forgeroom.org. We are accepting donations through our disaster fund. You can find a link right there on the homepage. And we are currently helping organizations and buying supplies and delivering and serving in the area. I've got a connection to that area from when I was a child. I went to camp down there at Camp La Junta, and I was a counselor down there. Sweet people, small community, big devastation all throughout that region and other areas of Texas due to flooding. So if you have a heart for it, get involved. If not through us, then through another great nonprofit. Please pray for the people down there as the spotlight of media moves away to other things. Those people are going to need help for a while. Up to a year, if not longer. So continue to pray for them, find ways to get involved, listen to this podcast, give you a few ideas, and connect with me. Happy to answer questions. My guest today will be Tyler Durham, my good friend. He just went down on my last deployment with me, and you'll get to hear some insights from the flood zone. Thanks for tuning in to the Revolution of Man podcast. Appreciate you. We just got back from a trip.
We did. Yeah, it was an amazing trip, but I honestly, I don't even know how we got down there and why we went to where we went. I've heard bits and pieces from you, but how did this even start?
So I got a text. We were watching, you remember it was 4th of July, actually the 3rd of July, 4th of July that weekend, and 4th of July, early in the morning, started getting texts from people talking about Kerrville's underwater, Hunt's underwater, kids are missing from camps. I was getting you get on social media and the news, there's just chaos.
Awful.
Turmoil, chaos, water everywhere. And I went to Camp La Junta down in Hunt, Texas from the age of 5 until I was 14 or 15, and then was a counselor for 3 years. So I have a deep connection to that particular camp in Hunt along the Guadalupe River, which the camp was partially destroyed, and then the surrounding camps. So I've got some connections in that area. And a good friend of mine that was a counselor and a camper and a counselor at Camp Mystic many years ago texted me the name of a friend of hers that had been a counselor at several of the camps and was really deeply connected to Heart of the Hills, which is a girls' camp down there. So she had worked at Mystic, Heart of the Hills, and then the Heart of the Hills there, I believe it was the owner, a lady, died in the flood. The owner of Mystic died in the flood. And since I'd been doing disaster relief for a while,
how many years have you done the disaster relief stuff?
Almost 15. My first one was Joplin, the tornado in Joplin, and that was 2011.
Okay, wow.
And then, so my friend Lauren contacted me. She's like, if you're going to be doing anything, this is my friend Danielle, who's down there, is connected to Heart of the Hills. They have needs. She just started connecting me with names and people.
Yep.
And then another friend of hers, who's the daughter, one of the owners at Camp La Junta, who I hadn't talked to any of them in like 35 years. I don't know how long. I'm almost 51. So it's been a long time since I talked to La Junta. So I was connected to those two camps. And then Samaritan's Purse, I knew they would end up down there. And so I just started making phone calls and texting these people really on the 4th and 5th of July and trying to get a handle on what was going on, and then watching it all on social media, just the mayhem. And I knew at that point in time that this was like a Hurricane Harvey type, maybe not quite as bad at that point in time. I just didn't know how big this flooding thing was until
hearing the
days
stories
later.
You knew it was bad.
It was bad. There were, almost 30 campers and counselors missing from Mystic alone, an entire cabin. And the missing numbers just kept going and going and going. And then I found out the Camp La Junta that they were all fine. They had one cabin that floated, but they got everybody out. And so then I knew, that's when I knew, I was like, I'm going to end up down there. I didn't realize it'd be that quick. So that happened on the 4th, and we're down there on the 8th. So went down there with a friend of ours.
So you went down with Payne. And
so that's how I kind
of
on
last week.
Yeah, last week. So
and what did y'all do? So you had your friend Lauren connected you with Danielle, who used to be a counselor at
Heart of the Hills.
And so you followed up on that, and she had a contact down there that got hit by
their entire neighborhood got flooded, and so there were a couple things going on at once. So as I was deciding, okay, we're gonna go down there. Well, we have to figure out, who are we gonna link up with? Who's operating down there? Is Samaritan's Purse down there? Or are they gonna be in a different area?
What's the weather gonna be like? It was still raining.
All of those things. There's all these different factors that you're working through. The main thing is figuring out where the assets and resources are. So and can you access the area? So I didn't hear anything from Samaritan's Purse. I'd made a couple of calls. No one knew where they were going. And so I started looking at a map and looking up churches online in the area. The first church on my list was Kerrville Bible Church. And so I just called them. And I got a hold of Rita, who manages the office there. She's the assistant to the pastors. Her husband works there, and just sweet people. I talked to her and just introduced myself and said, hey, we want to help, but I'm just trying to get the lay of the land down there. And she told me at that point in time, Samaritan's Purse is showing up tomorrow. I think this was on Monday when I called her. So
because they're a lighthouse church.
They're a lighthouse. So basically, Samaritan's Purse partners with churches all around the country that the church enters into an agreement with Samaritan's Purse that if there's a disaster in their area, they will be potentially the command center and the volunteer deployment for Samaritan's Purse, which is a worldwide disaster relief ministry. So she told me that, like, Samaritan's Purse is going to be here. I was like, well, praise God, because they're great. They're going to be a huge help to your church, but they're amazing what they're able to do.
No need to go down the church list you found on the first try.
I found the first try, praise God. And this is all God's providence. Everything is God making these connections, because otherwise, all those connections, if I didn't have anything going on, then I just wouldn't have driven down there by myself and said, hey,
going in totally blind.
Totally blind,
you don't even know
you don't know how to help.
Yeah.
And that can be fine, but can also get in the way of first respond. They're doing rescues. That was really early on. 4 days in is very early. And so I talked to them, and then I think it was within an hour I got the alert from Samaritan's Purse that they're signing up volunteers to go in.
So
and I was like, great, that's awesome. And then made connections with Samaritan's Purse. So try to have a couple of connections before heading down there. And then that's at the same time, another friend, Danielle, was connected to one of her best friends, Diana, that lives in the area, that her house, or all of her neighbors' houses were destroyed, essentially. And Diana ended up on CNN and NBC, like the major news channels, because she escaped her house within seconds of it completely flooding on a kayak with her 2 dogs. It was within just minutes, probably minutes of her being swept away or drowning. She gets on her kayak with her 2 dogs with nothing else and survives. And then she had one person passed away in her neighborhood that died in the flood.
That we know, there might be more, but yeah, the neighbor told us that. And
this is a small cul-de-sac in Hunt. And so we had that contact, and then
just to put it into perspective real quick, that cul-de-sac was on the other side of a major road, up a hill, probably, what would you say, about 400 yards away from the river, maybe?
Maybe not that far, but far enough to
you would never, if you were down there with us, you would never dream that water would be over your head.
Right.
Covering the downstairs of all the houses there.
Up to the roof line, essentially, of these one-story houses.
Yeah, it's impossible to communicate that. So yeah, that was wild. But I want to rewind for just a sec. You went down the first time with pain, and we can talk about that in a second. But walk me through because you had talked to me about the mental process. This is, you were taking the initiative. You've done this for 14, 15 years, but you were making the phone calls and planning a trip. And there was some, battles, self-talk going on in your mind of like, who am I to be doing this? And,
right.
Why am I doing this? Is anybody talk through that? Because I think that's big, because a lot of people, I think, get talked out of following.
Talk yourself out of it. There's a couple things at play, because you don't want to, having done this long enough, and I'm not an expert at any. I'm more of a generalist. I can run a chainsaw. I can help with some logistics. I can move tree. Help move debris, muck houses. I can do all those things, but I'm not a search and rescue person. I'm not in any of those things. So as the night before Payne and I were going to leave, that's when all these doubts entered. I'm like, I made all this. I was like, what the heck am I doing?
What am I thinking?
I'm in way over my head. I'm inadequate. I don't know what I think I know. Like, I had to ask myself, what's driving this? Is it because I feel so horrible for these people, or you have to deal with pride issues? Like, oh, you think you're going to go down there and actually
save the world?
And once I started seeing God's providence, and I was like, Lord, I just need protection and favor in your guidance. Because you're the one. This is too big for anyone.
I think this is what you're leading me to do, and so I'm just going to do what I feel called to do.
And so once I gave all that, just gave that over to God, and I'm like, okay, I don't have anything to offer, but you're in charge of this. You're down there. There's people hurting. What can we do? And so that's when everything kind of cleared up, and I had pieces like, okay, I'm going down there.
You have to remind yourself of the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Get through all of that. I wanted to stay out of the way of the people that were doing the hard work. I knew that we probably couldn't get through the checkpoint. And that was the big issue. When we went down, you and I went down.
Just the weather was still really bad and unpredictable.
Right. And the checkpoint, so people that are listening, there's a checkpoint when you enter from Ingram into Hunt where they have state troopers along the road, and they are turning away vehicles that don't need to be in the area.
They just want to see what's going
people
on.
That are
no
disaster
agenda.
tourists, influencers, people that don't. And oftentimes in these areas, because the properties are unprotected, there's nefarious people, criminals that will come in, say they're volunteering. They'll buy the yellow jackets and go show up on people's property and start stealing things, looking for valuables. I mean, so kudos to the state troopers and DPS, all of those that were putting up that checkpoint, but they were turning cars away. So I knew going down there, I may not even be able to access the area. But Danielle, our friend that's friends with Diana in that little neighborhood, and also at Heart of the Hills, said they need a generator. Their refrigerators and the freezer systems at Heart of the Hills camp, they've got staff members there, they've got volunteers, they're helping feed some of the people in the community from the camp, and their generators aren't holding up because they're smaller generators. They need a bigger generator. And usually in these disaster situations like hurricanes and things like that, you can't find equipment within 100 miles of that zone because people buy it up and take it down there. And we were driving down.
You and Payne.
Payne and I were driving
4 days after the tragedy.
Not knowing if we're going to be able to really get in there. We had brought some equipment, chainsaws, like just, link up with one of the groups that are working down there, and we just link up and go help, right? And then got a call from my friend Danielle and said, hey, they need a generator. Okay, so
that was while you were driving down.
While we were driving down, we were in Lampasas, which is about 2 hours away. Yeah. and we started scrambling to find a generator. I'm like, we're not going to find one. We go to store 1, no generators. Store 2, no generators. And Payne was like, let's keep trying. And then the lady at store 2 said, go up. You may try Tractor Supply. They may have them. Well, we went up there. Sure enough, they had like tons of generators, and they had the Big Daddy generator that we knew could run their system. Mm-hmm. And so we got that. The people at Tractor Supply gave us an employee discount. They're like, you guys are going down there. They knocked a couple $100 off. Of course, this is all donated. People are donating money to the Forge Room to be able to get this stuff. And I was like, that's God's providence, and we're looking for favor. And I told Payne, I was like, we're asking for God's favor, so we need favor with everyone, because we don't have much to offer. Yep. Except we're willing to come and help.
Yep.
And we'll link up with a group that's helping. So that was it. The first thing on the way down, we got the generator. So we packed that in there and then kept on hauling in, and then went straight to Kerrville Bible Church, and then met with Miss Rita, who runs the office there. And she was just the sweetest lady, wealth of knowledge. Her good friend was the owner of Heart of the Hills, and when we told her that we had a generator to go to Heart of the Hills to drop off, that's when she told us that story. And she was like, guys, it's 2:00. Y'all need to get moving, because that checkpoint, you may not get through it, and sometimes there's a line a mile long, which means that you're waiting 30, 45 minutes, and then you get turned away. So we finally make it down there. It's about 15 minutes or so from the church. We get in line to the checkpoint, and we're watching cars. Like 70% of the cars are getting turned away. And I'm like, remember, favor. We just need favor. This generator has to get to that camp. And we're like, okay. So we pull up. The trooper, really nice guy. He's like, where y'all headed? It's like, we have a generator for Heart of the Hills. We're going to drop it off there. They have refrigerators and freezers that need this generator. And then that's it. And he's like,
have a good day.
Guys, have a nice day. Let us through the checkpoint. And then that's when we started, as you get deeper into Hunt and all that area, that's when you start to just see the devastation. I mean, this was day 4. They'd done a lot. By day 8, when we went, or whatever, day 10, whatever that was, 2 weeks later, essentially, from the disaster.
The 15th is when we went.
Yeah, that's right. So it's been 2 weeks after. Yeah. That you'd seen a lot more cleaned up when Payne and I went on the 8th. And so just driving through there, the devastation, it's just takes your breath away.
It's a tornado that just weaved its way down the river.
It's just like a bomb went off.
Everything.
But what was so interesting visually as you're driving in is that you see, because it's a flood, and I've seen hurricanes and fires and tornadoes, this was completely different because everything above the flood zone where the water was perfectly fine.
Untouched.
Like yards in perfect condition, toys out in the air. I mean, just like normal.
10 yards away.
10 yards down, 20 yards down, and it's complete devastation. Trees turned over, cars in the middle of the... I mean, just... It's hard to describe, and it's a matter of a foot between total devastation and nothing. Perfect.
It's
no
remarkable.
problem. And you start driving through there, and then you start to see the debris 30 feet up in the trees, mattresses from the camps and people's homes, canoes wrapped around, and cars just turned over in the middle of
It's
fields.
impossible to describe.
Oh yeah, it's in the pictures and the videos don't do it any justice at all. It's just alien.
So the first trip was a success. You got intel. You got some much needed resources to that camp. The generator.
We got the generator to the camp. We got the burner phones because Diana, the lady that escaped in her kayak with her 2 dogs, what ended up happening. The flood came in the middle of the night. So people just escaped with their lives if they could escape. They weren't thinking, I got to get my phone. I've got to do this. They didn't
gather their belongings. They woke up at 4 a.m. and they're knee deep in water. And by the time they get out of the house, they're now chest deep.
And the water's moving through in waves. As it's rising fast. And so we took down burner phones with calling plans, so that we took down like 3 phones so that they could give it out to the community. So that's one thing that people can do is like, hey, keep some burner phones around, because if you want to help, oftentimes they don't have a phone. Now, we didn't have cell service. Luckily, Payne had Starlink. So we were able to, our maps worked. We were able to make calls, send texts to people. So we were able to communicate. But that came in really handy. But that first trip, we got done what we needed to get done and just turned around. Didn't want to be a burden on local resources or hotel rooms or anything. So we just turned around and came back to Fort Worth. It was like an 8-hour trip. Spent maybe 8 hours on the ground and then came back. Like, we've hit our objective, which was to go down.
Yeah, very fruitful.
Yeah. So, that was the first voyage.
And then we went down on the 15th, and you maintained some connections in between those two.
And made some new ones along the way.
And
but we did, real quick, we did stop on our way out and met with the owners of Camp La Junta for about an hour and 15 minutes. Prayed with them, just tried to understand what was going on with the camp. My old camp hadn't been there, and they'd recovered 3 deceased at that camp, which was sad, which rattled the folks at La Junta, particularly our friend David, who was helping with that effort. And so it was good meeting with them, and their heart for the community and for the camp was to, how can we help? And then they set up a nonprofit to help rebuild. But those camps aren't just summer camps. They do a lot of stuff for underprivileged kids, special needs kids, things like that during the off season, which is 9 months out of the year. Mm-hmm. So those camps aren't just summer camps. They're doing other things, a lot of good things down there. There's like a dozen of them down that river system.
Yeah. And you and I were talking to a lady who was handing out free meals to people driving by along the river, law enforcement and volunteers.
We stopped at the Hunt store.
And this was on a Tuesday, the 15th, and she's like, I've got to head back to Dallas tomorrow because one of the girls who passed away. The funeral is in Dallas, the next day.
She had a camper at Mystic. She had didn't her daughter?
No, her daughter's friend was at Mystic and passed away.
Yeah.
8-year-old. And so it really hits you that this has impacted every city and town in the state of Texas, because so many people have connections to these dozen camps that are down there and maybe more. And that just was like, wow, she's got to leave.
She's there serving meals to give people an idea. Along that Highway 39 at the Hunt store, which was basically destroyed, they've set up basically a little ops center with food, and it's all free for all the anybody in the area can come there, get 2 meals a day. I don't know if they do breakfast, but at least lunch and dinner, and it's good. It's legit. Mm-hmm. It's not like
slop.
It's great food, and it's all run by volunteers. And she was volunteering there, and then the next day she was going to get a memorial service for a little girl.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. And so we went down on Tuesday the 15th, and once again, we really didn't have a specific agenda other than providing some more supplies and stuff for Diana, and then looking for, I think you described it as looking for gaps. These big nonprofits that have hundreds of volunteers, they're organized and they've got resources out the wazoo, and they've got game plans, but there's always people that are missed.
Right.
And there's always gaps. And so we were just praying, Lord, help us fill a gap. And so you had some supplies that you'd gotten for Diana, who lived on the cul-de-sac about 300 yards away from the river, lost everything. And so we went down there. It was raining the whole way.
Yeah.
It was raining there. And
we didn't think we were going to be able to.
It was checkpoint again.
Well, the checkpoint, remember they closed it off for 2 days before we went down there because it was flooding again.
Yeah.
Not as bad, but it was flooding again, and they had
to pull them off the river. The search and rescue
that lived there that were trapped at their area. They weren't trapped; they weren't in any danger, but they couldn't get to town to get groceries, prescriptions.
Well, they went and got groceries, and they couldn't get back home, so they slept in their car.
Well, that was one group, but then there was another group they were just stuck in their neighborhood. So older folks that needed to get into town. So it's just bizarre. Yeah, we're talking to the one lady that was telling us about the family that waited at the low water crossing, and they couldn't cross until like 4 a.m. They just had to sleep in their car in order to get home.
Yeah. So we went down at the perfect time. They opened it back up. We had the supplies. We touched base with Kerrville Bible Church and got to meet their senior pastor, their associate pastor. Got to meet the guy who's over their benevolence fund. Is kind of receiving all of this.
And they have a disaster fund too, separate from Samaritan's Purse, which is housed
all these donations coming in that he's processing, and we got to pray with their team.
I mean, we kind of were there for their staff prayer. Afternoon prayer.
Their weekly prayer time. Yeah. So that was really neat. Great church, Kerrville Bible Church, and then we connected with the Samaritan's Purse. Your contact with them. And they were doing a lot of what do they call it?
Mucking
and
basically clean up of the property for these
helping people
residents.
Clean up their properties and get everything out of the house so they can start drying. And so we delivered the supplies, and then how did we get the idea that let's go get some more generators? What was we talked to the neighbor.
We talked to
Diana wasn't there.
So we dropped Diana's supplies, what was great about having a contact in an area that can tell you exactly what they need, because a lot of people will drop clothing and water and supplies that they're great to have, but if you drop off clothing, they don't have a closet. Their house is destroyed. So you have to give them plastic boxes to put their things in. But those plastic boxes, you get 50 plastic boxes to put your things in. How do you know what's in what? Well, you've got to get tape and a marker. You need tables to sort things because your tables are destroyed. And then those pop-up canopy things
those
that
tents,
you use at picnics, sunshades. So that's exactly, we had an order like, hey, these are the things that they need. and
Yeah.
bought some Texas flags for them, like just for extra, just to lighten their heart a little bit that these are Texans helping Texans.
But so Diana wasn't there.
No, we didn't. We still haven't met face to face
Yeah.
with Diana yet. That's what's incredible.
And everything's destroyed. And we saw the neighbor across the street talking with some guys, and I mean, her house is completely gutted. It's just the wood beams. That's
Studs,
it.
yeah.
And everything's gone. So we go over and talk to her, and she mentioned, I'm sure we can use some more generators and but she wasn't asking for it. We were like trying to pry out of her, like, what can we get for her? Because a lot of these people think, maybe they think I don't want to ask for help. For some of them, that might be the case. For most of them, it's, I care more about those who need it more. I can manage, but go give it to somebody that needs it more. But we kept prying with her, and we got out enough to say, let's go grab some generators, and we'll just bless her, and we'll get one for Diana. And so we went back into town.
And that's the thing is rather than kind of just bluntly asking, what do you need? You kind of have to work around that, because you got to be careful with that question. They say, well, I need a new house. So it's like you approach that and just listening. That's why it's good to have a couple people down there, people listening. You're like, hey, are you catching that? And you catch something that I don't catch when we're talking to a homeowner or somebody that needs help. You're like, hey, I think she didn't ask for generators.
Yeah.
Because we don't think we can get any generators. So the generator thing isn't like on the table. Oh, yeah, we'll get you generators. We just got back in the car and we're like, she needs generators. Okay, if we have to drive back to Fort Worth or whatever, because now Lampasas has been flooded. So that's 2 hours.
Yeah.
We might have to. I remember I was like, if we drive, it's like, we're driving back to Fort Worth. I mean, we made that decision, whatever it takes to get generators. And
thankfully, they had them in Kerrville. So we drove 20 minutes and got 2 generators, brought those back with extension cords, all that.
That was funny.
Yeah, but we still never met Diana. She wasn't there, so we just left a note. God bless you. If you need anything, let us know. And Denise, the neighbor, wasn't there either. So we just left these in their garages. And fuel. Once again, it's like, I'm looking at all this as a newcomer to going to disaster areas. I've never done this before, and having no expectations. And you got to be flexible, just like on mission trips. You never know what's going to happen. And so we're just like, Lord, this is what we believe you're calling us to do. And so we're going to go get 2 generators.
Right.
And we never saw them again. And then we go.
And the other thing is, what was cool about that neighborhood is that there were neighbors looking out, like the guy that was on the Ranger.
Yeah, the ATV drove by and had Gatorade and water.
He stopped by, and because he knew that Denise wasn't there. There was nobody there, and I'm there writing a note on the
rummaging
generator.
Through the garage.
They didn't want to make sure they're not stealing, or who are these people, and he came up and checked on his neighbors.
Yeah,
I appreciated that.
Yeah, it was amazing to see just how everybody came together and just the unity, and I think a lot of that just comes with, everything else fades in the background. It's everyone's focused on the same mission. And long story short, we then went to a really cool place. It was the Center Point Fire Department, and the only reason we knew to go there.
By the way, volunteer fire department.
Fire department. The only reason we knew to go there is because our contact at
Kerrville Bible Church.
Yep, Kerrville Bible Church. She had mentioned, hey, you might want to check out Center Point Fire Department, because they're a volunteer fire department, and I've heard that they might need some resources. So we show up there. The place is jam-packed. There's tents everywhere. There's probably 15 different nonprofits. The Cajun Navy is there, and they got their tents set up with IVs going for volunteers. And we go inside knowing nobody. And Lance is like, okay, I want you to take the lead. I want you to see how this works, and I want you to establish a contact. And I'm like, oh gosh, you've been doing this for 14 years.
Yeah.
Why don't you do it? And that's what I'm thinking. But I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah. You were game at this point. You knew.
Yeah, and you went to the bathroom, so I literally was on my own. You bailed out on me. But we made a contact, and the place was a well-oiled machine. They had everything organized, and I'm thinking, they don't need anything. In fact, we need to get out of here because we're obviously just going to get in the way.
Right.
I mean, they had rows and rows of chainsaws and shovels and everything you could dream
First
of.
aid, food,
everything
you could think of.
And volunteers running around everywhere, and they got search and rescue.
Yeah,
hundreds of volunteers. They're literally like finding bodies still, recovery, and she goes, I just don't think I need anything but go see so and so. So we went and saw so and so, who was her husband, Sammy,
and he's in charge of chainsaw repair.
Yeah, so we go to the
Full-time.
chainsaw repair guy, and he's like, "Well, we got enough chainsaws, and I got some volunteers that, are really they know how to work this equipment, and they're sharpening the chainsaws. So if one breaks down, we send it to them, they get it fixed, and bring it back. We don't need chainsaws, but maybe go see, there he is right there, and he's this kind of wild-looking guy running around with a chest rig with
radio,
walkie-talkies, and he's got long blonde hair and a bandana, and he's like,
he's got the American flag
hat and a bandana around his neck, and he's like, his name's Razor. Like, Razor, get over here, and we talked to Razor, and Lance and I were like,
volunteer fire department.
Yeah, volunteer fire department, great guy, and we're like, hey man, we're going into town, we can get anything you need. What do you need? And he's like, well, you know what we need is we need extension cords. We need a lot of them, and we need circuit breakers because we got
surge protectors.
I'm sorry, surge protectors.
Yeah,
and because we got all this technology in the back room, we got computers set up. We're keeping track of all this with the maps and stuff. And the last thing we need is for that to go out, or for us to get struck by lightning and it burns everything. And
right, because you're running off generators, and it's not like your average extension cord that you would use in your home or out in the yard.
These are heavy duty, and there's generators everywhere, and there's extension cords everywhere, and they don't have enough. And then this one guy, as we're talking to Razor, comes up and goes, hey, do y'all have an extension cord? I'm like, well, we're about to go get some.
Right.
And so we went back into town and went back to Harbor Freight and Tractor Supply and
we bought as much
15 extension cords, as heavy duty as you could get, and we got the
surge protectors.
Yeah. And we came back, and it was like we were bringing bars of gold. When we went into
like Christmas in there.
Yeah, headquarters, and they were just like kids in a candy store. Oh, I'll take I need the 100-foot, and I'll take the 50-foot, and we need and they were getting it set up while we were in there. And dude, it was to see the amount of resources they had. You would walk up and go, they don't need us here.
Right.
Let's just get back in the car. They got it going. And it was so gratifying to realize that, two dudes, one of them, you, Lance, having a friend from childhood, right? That y'all,
or from younger
years,
yeah,
and y'all reconnected, and two guys drive down there. We blessed this lady and her two dogs that lost everything, and her neighbor, and then we got to bless this well-oiled machine by providing, in this niche area that somehow extension cords got overlooked with all the stuff. Nobody thought to bring extension cords, and we got to.
Right.
It was just an amazing feeling, especially going into it thinking, what are we going to be doing?
Yeah.
What are we going to be doing? Two dudes
from 4.5 hours away.
From Fort Worth. I don't know. I don't have a clue. You've been doing it for 15 years. But I'm just along for the ride, like whatever we're supposed to do, you just let me know.
You're there for comic relief.
And
talk about books.
And we made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, because you that type of situation, the if they don't have any needs, then the default is you just jump in on a team.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we could have just signed up to hold water, or to wave to people driving by, and that matters. And that's another thing that I realized, that every little thing matters, and every kind gesture. There was no place that treated us disrespectfully, or what are you two guys, get out of the way. Everybody was just warm,
thankful that you're there.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Like, we're just walking. Two guys walking, you're like, okay.
We went by the Salvation Army, and they're like, hey, we might have a generator. Let me go check. And what about this? And it was an amazing thing to be a part of something like that. And I bet there's so many people that would be thrilled to experience what you and I experienced, and that could really contribute that talk themselves out of it because they don't have a connection with some large organization, or they're in a smaller church and they're like, what can we actually do? We don't have the resources of the bigger churches, maybe next time. And I learned on this 2-day trip, man, you don't need to wait till the next time.
Yeah.
You need
two guys with a willing spirit, a can-do attitude is like, we'll figure it out. We'll be back.
Yeah.
And
you went down your mental list of who do I have contacts with that would be down there, and the thing is you got to take initiative on the front end. You picked up the phone and you made phone calls. You reconnected with people that you've connected with before, and that's another great example of when you make connections with people. And I do a terrible job of this, but keeping those connections with just little touches over the year.
Right.
Hey, praying for you. How are things going? You if you keep those connections, you never know what God can do.
Yeah, and the thing is when you work in those when you work in that type of environment and you meet people in there, you don't forget them and they don't forget you because of the crisis. True. You've helped each other out, even if it's handing out water. It could be anything. Like every single piece matters. So whether
it's the opposite,
it's
the opposite of a trauma bond.
Right.
It's we're not bonding over the trauma. We're bonding over the other side of that of helping people that have experienced trauma. So it's bonding over this amazing mission that you're sharing. And go ahead, cut you off.
Well, you have. That's the thing, is the expertise. Like, you have the people that it's their responsibility to go do search and rescue. They're searching for live people in order to rescue. After a few days, that moves into recovery. So now they're doing search and recovery, and now these are the people that are going out and recovering the deceased. And this is after days and weeks and things like that. So the mood changes, but then if your part is just to hand out a cold water as they could come off the water in those boats and they're coming back with their dogs and no telling what they've seen, and that's your job. You're standing at the entrance there and you're just handing them water, saying thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. That means a lot to those people.
Yeah.
And the residents, and it's every little thing matters.
That's the
so
part
everybody
that God
can contribute.
wants you to play.
Yeah. Small hinges swing big doors. A couple of people that are willing go. If you deploy, don't just self-deploy and just go in there anywhere with a chainsaw and start cutting things. Like, connect with a bigger organization, find out who's doing what, do the homework leading up.
So talk about that for a second. That requires humility to come in and recognize your need for other people to help direct you and give you responsibilities. Some people might struggle with that level of humility, and I think that's something that you've learned over the years, that's the best approach going into these situations.
Yeah, is go up and ask people, like, I'm here, I've got this kind of experience, where can I help? Can you use me? It's basically, can you use me you need an extra set of hands, extra set of eyes, whatever it is. This is what I can do. I can do a little bit of chainsaw work. I can pull, brush, help muck a house. You have to just kind of be willing to jump in and help, but you also have to know your limitations where you could potentially be move from being an asset to a liability. Like, don't say you can do a bunch of chainsaw work if you've never run a chainsaw before, or if you have some health issues and you're going to be with the search teams out in the 90-degree heat with 100% humidity out there, and
know your lane.
You just need to. You have to just know that, and then know your limitations, but being willing that you're going to be stretched wherever you go, because it's not easy. I mean, it's amazing. Like, you're down there I think we're down there for 28 hours, something like that, and how much you can get done once you're in the mode.
It's shocking.
You can just get a lot done,
and willing to do whatever
it takes. Whatever it takes.
We drove up to Mountain Home Volunteer Fire Department because somebody had mentioned they might need stuff, and that was like 40 minutes away. And we were driving up there and we're like, man, this sure doesn't seem like it's not anywhere close to the river.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, we'll go check it out. And there ain't nothing going on at the Mountain Home Fire Department.
Yeah.
So we just said, okay, well, what's next? Let's go. We're going to circle back. Because we were going to drop off some of those extension cords.
And surge
we said, you know
protectors.
what? We're going back to Razor, and we're about to give them a second Christmas in the same day. And you know what? We went back, and they were giddy and started rifling through.
And that one guy was outside, and he was like, "Oh, I need one of those." Because they're like, "Here, just take them all," because we wanted to do is go back empty-handed. It's like we don't know when we're going to redeploy down there. Just leave everything that they need. It's not like you're leaving large equipment down there. It's like big extension cords and surge
It's going to be
protectors.
used.
It will be used. And I just imagine if something happened, the storm moves through there, lightning strike or a surge, because they're connecting power to all those areas now, and they get a surge, and one of the surge protectors keeps all their tech up and running, because that's
a game changer.
Tracking where everybody is.
You had mentioned on the trip how important it is to get quality equipment, not necessarily the most expensive, but you don't want to cut corners on in situations like this. Why is that?
2 reasons: because you want whatever you're going to donate, you want it to be the highest quality that you can afford. It doesn't need to be expensive. It just needs to be highest quality. And if that's a little bit more expensive, then you buy that. 2 reasons: because it's more reliable. If you buy a cheap chainsaw and you're on a team and you've got 3 or 4 people and you got one guy on the chainsaw, and that chainsaw just burns out, and it's just a cheap chainsaw, then the whole thing shuts down until you can get a new chainsaw. Sometimes that's not possible.
And somebody could get injured if it's really bad equipment.
And then so you want to have good equipment. And then the other thing is we represent God, and it's like it's a witness to the quality of our Heavenly Father's. Like, we're going to do the best. It's His resources. We're a conduit of the blessing. We'll make it a blessing. Mm-hmm. A true blessing is like to the best of our ability, what we can afford within reason. We want to give them the highest quality. So we're not going to buy the cheapest generator we can possibly. It's like, what is a good generator that's going to be reliable? It's not going to be the most expensive one, but it'll be reliable. Mm-hmm. That will run for them. Same thing with like the cords. We're the quality of the cords and the surge protectors. Like, we sat there for 30 minutes.
Because they had mentioned that a lot of people were bringing extension cords that were cheaper and were made for like small appliances.
Yeah,
and they're
for
trying
things
to
like
run,
if you're going to run your leaf blower.
Yeah.
And things like, but these needed to be run for generators and a heavy equipment, but also running into that computer room where they had, I don't know, like 5 or 6 computers,
all kinds of stuff set
and
up,
all kinds of electronic
so pay attention to detail
radios
when you're buying this
charging
equipment.
radios where they've got 100 radios out there. They have to charge those things. Well, if there's a power surge and it fries 100 radios, and you've got to send out guys on recovery the next day, and all your radios are fried, now you got another problem.
Yep.
You can't send them out because you can't communicate.
Yep. So you mentioned the conduit
To the
being
blessing.
used as a conduit. I would, and when I used to work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and had to raise my own support, which I did a terrible job of doing that. I was not
hard.
Not
It's
good
difficult.
at that. But one of the things that did help me get more comfortable with it is just having people that were wiser and had been raising money longer, talking about you're not putting a burden on people by asking them if they want to support Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You're giving them an opportunity to share in all the blessings and the fruit in that ministry. Their contribution, it counts, it matters. And
when they see that, it's like you've planted the seed. That's the ministry. They are watering and cultivating the soil and putting nutrients into it, and then you don't get to see it until that seed blooms, and then comes a tree and starts producing fruit.
And you might never see it in this life.
You might not see it, but oftentimes you get that blessing. You're like, yeah, I'm seeing the fruit of that ministry. And that the fact that you got to throw a little water, a little nutrients on it in that soil, and you're like, look at that.
Well, it makes me think of, I was preaching on Acts in Acts chapter 12, 2 weeks ago, the first part, actually Acts chapter 11, excuse me, but where the church in Antioch, the Gentile and Jewish, it's the first time you've got this church made up of Jews and Gentiles in Antioch. There was a famine that was really affecting the Jerusalem church. And so they collectively as a church banded together and decided to give support financially.
To the mother church.
To the mother church. Right. And they sent two guys, Saul, who's Paul, and Barnabas, to deliver the gift. That doesn't just count for Paul. You know, that's not just pleasing to the Lord that Barnabas and Saul were the ones elected to deliver it. All those that stayed back in Antioch, it's a blessing to them too, and God is pleased with them even if they don't make the trip.
Yeah, exactly. And what was so interesting about that sermon is that we preached that sermon that the flood was on the 4th, the morning of the 4th,
which was
the 5th was a Saturday,
and then the 6th,
and then the 6th
was that passage.
Was that Sunday passage, and instead of a famine, we had a flood.
Yeah, natural disaster. Churches that were many, many, many miles away were sending support to the people suffering in that natural disaster.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was the God's providence and timing of the sermon, with the situation, the sermon, where we are in Acts 11, and then what was going on in South miles
in
away,
real time.
And then connecting us with a church in that area.
And it was our largest giving Sunday, by the way.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, that's because people, you know, if you give people an opportunity to really make a difference, and that's why I think we wanted to use this podcast to share the story, is to get people excited. Most people think they're just living a normal life, and who are they to fill in the blank? And it's like, we just got back from down there. Everybody down there were
delivering
normal,
a blessing
people.
from people from multiple churches in Fort Worth. I mean, because it was through Forge Room and King's Cross is involved, but that wasn't that we were just a conduit. Like it's like you know, whenever the UPS or Amazon person delivers your packages, you don't run out and hug them. Oh, thank you. Like somebody gives you, it's your birthday, and there's somebody sends you some birthday gifts. It's like, you don't hug the delivery guy. Oh, thanks. Like, no, it's like, I'm just the delivery guy.
You're not excited to see him. You're excited to see
the person who sent the gift is this other person.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So it's kind of like, that's what we are. It's like, we're just delivering the blessing. Like, that's what we do.
And it's what's happening down there. All of the good, positive stuff is because normal people answered the call.
Right.
If you remember at Centerpoint, the lady was saying that it's hundreds and hundreds of volunteers doing the search and rescue.
Right.
They're the ones poking the stacks of debris, you know, to try to find missing people.
Right.
I mean, and you know, that you want to talk about a meaningful but also a somber and holy activity.
Right.
But it's normal people. If normal people realize that we serve a supernatural God, it's the power
ordinary
is
people,
God.
Extraordinary God.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so it was an absolute treat for you to invite me to go down there with you. And we're not done yet. We're going to look for more ways to contribute and to bless people and through Forge Room, and so if there's people that want to be a part of this financially, they can give to Forge Room, and if there's people that want to, you know, to serve, you know, I would say reach out to Lance, and we don't know what is in store.
Everything constantly down in these areas, particularly, and it's early on. Usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks is still considered something like this is early on. This is going to take them years to get back to where they were, if they ever do. I mean, it's never going to look the same. It's going to take a while for all that to look like it used to. I think it can be improved, but it's the next 6 months.
And what happens, like, you know, some people, it's a delayed mourning. Like, they're still, the adrenaline's still up. They're just reacting to, they're just surviving. And then like a month down the road, a lot of the big organizations, no fault to them, but they're moving on to other disasters.
They're responding to other disasters on the front end, so they start to remove.
And what happens to the locals that are still suffering? What what is the emotional?
So if the infrastructure of support isn't in place, then that's when people start falling through the cracks, and then it becomes harder on that local community to deal with it. So. Two things happen. Your bigger organizations start to pull back because they're doing rescue, all those things. Like the rest, they're not doing rescues anymore. So all those folks are gone. Now they're doing recoveries. But eventually, those folks are gone. Besides the Cajun Navy people, he's like,
I'm not leaving until we find everyone.
We're not leaving.
The media is long gone.
The media,
nobody's talking about it anymore. You're not being
so
talked
once
about.
that spotlight from the media, social media, and all of that, the memorial services, that fades away. The media will move on to other things, but
hassling with insurance and FEMA,
right?
And the stress of that starts to really pick up.
So then you have the long-term fatigue, and then they understand just how much trouble they're in, and then everybody's kind of gone. All the activity's gone, and that can be very isolating and demoralizing. Mm-hmm. So what I always, and this went against what I originally always thought with disaster relief, like, hey, we're in there for 6 weeks and then we're done. I learned with Hurricane Harvey, it's like, no, we're not done. We're going to just keep coming back, and we had a gap that we were serving in this little community around this one little church, and we just kept going back for like a year.
What do you need?
Go back for a year.
How can we bless you?
How can we help? And by then you have relationships with those folks. And so you're part of the family. I mean, we went down there and celebrated Christmas with the church. Our disaster relief team went down there to celebrate Christmas. And then the following summer we did a kids camp, like a vacation Bible school for the kids at this little tiny church. I mean, there's a dozen kids.
I remember
you had
that now.
like almost 20 volunteers come down to serve a dozen kids. Great.
That's amazing.
It was fun. But those are things that, because people just need to be encouraged, but just don't overpromise and underdeliver. Just go in and listen to what the needs are, pick up on a few things, and deliver without even saying that you're going to do it, because you don't know if you absolutely can.
Yeah.
So it's best just to leave the generators, like, hey, we found the generators. We're not going to say, oh, we're going to get generators, we'll be back. Like, there may not be generators. Hey, we'll stay connected. See you later. We're going to get generators, and then the generators show up, because
That's
I got
a nice
a text
surprise.
from Diana.
I know, that was awesome,
and just so encouraging that she came back to her house and there was everything that she needed.
Gas,
at that time,
extension cords, generator.
We have extension cords coming out of everything.
Yeah.
So
I need some at my house, and I don't have any.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that's kind of the developing story. But I would say, as the spotlight moves, the organization the other organizations move out. Keep your prayers and your eyes on that area, because they're going to need help for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so just keep figuring out ways to get people down there, and because they're going to need help. And and you don't know what God's going to do. Take two random guys from Fort Worth, small hinges swing big doors.
Yeah,
100%. And it's not a prideful thing. It's just like, no, God, if you say yes, He will put you to work.
Yeah.
He'll put you in the right place at the right time to meet the right need.
Yep.
No doubt in my mind. So
that's awesome. Great trip. Thanks for taking me.
Thanks for dragging you along. Like, what the heck did I get myself into? Well, all right, man. Good times. We'll go do it again soon.
Godspeed.
All right. See ya.